Hey, Timo. We're just going to give this moment and give everyone the chance to join the meeting. I hope everyone is having a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're based in the world. I'm calling in from Toronto, Canada today, and I'll be doing a little bit of warehouse demoing to you guys. And as I said, we're just going to give this a few more minutes, a few minutes or so, to let everyone join. And then we'll jump right in and take a closer look at the warehouse module in Rentman in the new interface. Okay, looks like we have a few more people joining. And as I just said, we'll give this a moment and then we'll jump right in. Okay, looks like we have a few attendees already. And I think we're just about to get started. Let's give it a few more seconds and then we'll go ahead. All right, everyone, we might have a few more people joining, but for today, we're just going to go ahead and start taking a look. First of all, I want to welcome you all to our Advanced Warehouse Management webinar. My name is Tim. I'm one of the pretty much sales managers here at Rentman, product specialists, and I'll be showing you around the new interface, the new warehouse view in Rentman today. I'm being supported by two of my colleagues. They're called Lauren and Parker. You might have talked to them already. If not, they're pretty great guys that are going to be helping me with any questions today. And who we really want to, show this warehouse to, this new warehouse and the new interface is new users that are just starting with Rentman, but also users that are already, used to Rentman, but just want to see what maybe has changed and how does the warehouse in the new interface compare to the old one. Now, one thing to understand is during this webinar, you will not be able to actually speak with us. You will be able to use the chat feature to access links that we're posting. So if you're looking to get links to the support center or additional information, please just click in the chat function that you're seeing. And in addition to that, if you do have questions about what we're presenting, there's a Q&A button right below in your Zoom window. You can just click on that one, post your questions, and then either I am going to answer them live, or if it's maybe a little bit too much for today's webinar, Parker and Lauren are going to follow up with you on that. Now, as you're seeing right here, this session is part 2 in a 6-part series of webinars. We're going to be talking about warehousing and equipment management today. Maybe you have already participated in our introduction to Rentman, which happened a few days ago. And there's a few more coming up. So if you haven't signed up for them yet, feel free to do so. I believe Parker and Lauren should be posting the links for those in the chat as well. So just sign up and join us while we run you through the new interface over the next couple of weeks. Now, quick notice here, a recording of what we're doing today will be sent to every attendee. So if you have crew members, colleagues, partners that can join today, don't worry. It will be posted on YouTube and we will directly be able to forward that to your crew as well. And I think that's pretty much it for today. And what we're pretty much going to look at today, if we want to take a closer look at this, first of all, we're going to look at the warehousing flow. So how do we actually book equipment in and how do we book equipment out? We're then going to take a closer look at booking equipment. What kind of options do we have here? How do I mark things as defect? How do I mark things as lost, for example? And then we're going to talk a little bit more about warehouse returns, what new options we're offering there, how to actually handle your inventory. And then one of our most recent additions to Rentman, how do we make time-based stock changes in the system? Yeah, so these are the main things that we're going to be covering today. And again, if you do have any questions about these things, use the Q&A function that you're seeing in your Zoom window, ask us those questions. And again, we're either going to follow up by email or we're going to simply give you a call and discuss whatever we got to discuss. Yeah. Okay, and as I said, this will be made available on YouTube, on our blog as well, and then via email, and use the Q&A section below to ask us any questions. Okay, and I think with that, I'm going to end our presentation here, and we're going to jump into the important stuff right away. And if you already have questions right now, again, let us know and we'll directly answer them. Okay, so if you're new to Rentman, or if you're already a user of Rentman, you know that most things in Rentman always start with a project. And that's what we're also going to do today, because if we want to work in the warehouse, we do need a project that we actually book our equipment out for, and we also book equipment back in. So let's jump right in and do that. So I'm going to navigate over here to our projects view. This might be the first time that you're seeing the new interface, so not too much has changed, but we're just going to take a look at projects here. And then I can already see a list of all projects, but let's just say I want to start with a new one. So I'm simply going to go up here. I'm going to add a new project. And then I've already set up a template for today. We're going to be working with a concert template. Let's say when times are better, we have a concert coming up, and I'm directly going to go ahead and choose that one. And then also see, okay, what do the details of this look like? And I can directly choose a new start date. And let's simply say we're hoping that maybe by the end of September, we have a new job. And I'm just directly going to choose a new start date as the 28th of September. So that's in a month from now. So I have my template. I can see my details here. I'm kind of happy with that. So I'm just going to select that and start with my new project. Okay, so before we move on, there's a quick things I quickly got to do. First of all, because crew and transport planning is going to play a little bit of a role today, I quickly just have to go in and see if some crew and transport has been planned on this. So I go into the crew and transport tab. I can see that I have some positions planned in here. I'm going to need light techs, sound techs, and some people for transports here. And just so I can demo this to you correctly as well, I'm just going to go in and without really paying much attention to what I'm doing here, I'm just going to see who's available to work as a sound tech. That's Amy in this case. So I click on her to plan her. Light tech, let's go with Joe here. And then I'm also just going to plan 2 more people down here just to make sure that I have all the information I need. And then I think I'm also just going to go ahead and plan a little bit of transport, if I can do that. Okay. All right, so for now, we've planned a little bit of crew, and I think we're pretty much done here. The only thing that I want to also make sure is that for this project, I want to notify my members, my crew members in the warehouse that they need to pack certain items. So let's say you're in that situation. Let's say you have a note for your warehouse staff. Don't forget that you can do this as well. We're talking about warehouse management today. So if there needs to be a little bit of communication between you and the staff in the warehouse, easily go in here, add a note down here in that section, give that note a name, and then you can easily directly say, okay, make sure to pack item ABC, right? You're probably not going to write this. You're probably going to write a little bit more, something more elaborate. But again, just add these notes in here if you're trying to communicate with your warehouse staff. And the most important part really is make sure that you also make it visible for your warehouse staff right here by selecting the visibility option warehouse. Yeah. So we're going to save that. And we directly have our warehouse node down here. And then just to continue with that, I'm quickly going to check out my time schedule to make sure everything is in place right here. As I had chosen, our project, our planning period starts on the 28th of September, ends on the 31st, and our actual show is going from the 29th until the 31st as well. Yeah. Okay, awesome. I think we're pretty much done here. So I'm just going to go ahead and save that. And we have our first project starting on the 28th. Now, let's start talking about the actual warehouse. Sorry for the little bit of confusion here if you thought it was just going to be warehouse. Now, let's navigate over here. So the warehouse can be found above your projects section right here, about your projects menu options. So if we go in here, we directly get an overview of our warehouse module. Now, the warehouse module is really meant to provide an overview of equipment that needs to be prepared. is coming back or should have returned already. So what we can do in the warehouse is we can essentially book equipment on our projects manually, but we can also scan it. So if you have scanning infrastructure in place, you can use existing scanners. You can also use your phone with the Rentman app to essentially book equipment between different statuses, mark it as returned, mark it as broken. All these things are possible within this specific module in Rentman. Now, let's talk a little bit about the overview right here. But before we do that, let's actually choose the dates on which our project is supposed to go out. And if you guys remember, that was the 28th of September. So I'm just going to go up here and directly choose that. And I think I might have made a little mistake here. And this is the perfect option to directly show you that. And it looks actually good. Looks like I did the right job. But one very important thing to understand is that if you have built your projects in the project module, right? You've entered your equipment, your crew, and you're really ready now to start booking your equipment out on that specific day. Always make sure your project is confirmed. If a project is not confirmed, it will not show up in your warehouse module. We basically assume that once you've gotten the signature by your client, once you've confirmed it, only then you're actually ready to book. And that is why only confirmed projects actually show up in the warehouse module. Now, for this specific day right here, when we're looking at the warehousing module, there's a few things that are visible here. Now, let's talk about these different things. Now, first of all, we have two timelines up here, one for transport and one for scheduled crew members. And then we also directly down here have a third module, which is more warehouse centered. Now, the first module right here is for your transports. So for the transport, it essentially usually shows you which vehicles are leaving and coming back on that day. So it really makes clear what projects are going out and coming back in, which of course in some way is essential for your warehouse staff as well. So, you know, you may use this whatever way you want, but you also may use it to know what equipment needs to be unloaded, loaded, or even prepared by just checking in here and seeing, you know, what transports are happening. It looks like I forgot to plan a little bit of transport here, but I think you're getting the idea here in terms of being able to see the vehicles on which projects they're planned, and they're directly going to pop up right here. Now, in addition to that, we can also directly see which crew members are scheduled on which job. And really, this is just meant to show whatever crews may be working in the warehouse or is, you know, just passing by the screen on which this, you know, window is displayed to see, okay, who's working on which job today. And it just gives everyone the opportunity to have everything warehouse related in one screen and see it at the same time. To give you a bit of idea, some of our clients, we've visited their warehouses, and a lot of times what they've done, they've just, you know, they have a 50-inch screen. They put that warehouse module on one of their screens, and whenever somebody comes into the shop in the morning, they can directly go in, they can look at the warehouse screen, this screen right here, and they can directly see, all right, okay, what needs to be loaded and unloaded today, what transports are happening. They can directly see what am I scheduled on, what are my peers scheduled on, and then most importantly, and we haven't covered this yet, down here, you can also directly see the projects that currently still need to be packed, the ones that have been prepped already, the ones that are on location or expected back, and then also the ones that are delayed. So what we're seeing here essentially are the four main warehouse statuses that Rentman supports at this time. And again, if you're working in the warehouse and you cannot see your projects pop up in this first of four steps right here in the two-pack status, most likely you have not confirmed it, and therefore it is not showing up in the warehouse view just yet. Yeah. Now, how do we actually know when a project shows up in the warehouse module? Well, depending on the planning period that you've chosen for your project, at the start of the planning period, that's when it will show up. Because essentially, when you're defining the planning period within your project, when setting it up, that's when you're saying that's from when my equipment becomes unavailable. And Redmond this way assumes, all right, we're probably going to start pulling gear on that day, and therefore that is the first time that the project will show up in the warehouse module. Okay, now we have our view right here. Now, after taking a look at the actual interface, let's talk a little bit about how do we actually pack our equipment. Now, before I do that, I'm going to give this half a minute or so. If you guys do have any questions at this point in time about the overview here, about what I've just talked about, just let us know in the Q&A. So I'm going to give this half a minute, ask your questions, and we can directly cover them. Okay, Lauren, Parker, do we have any questions so far, or am I doing an okay job so far?
You're doing a fantastic job, Tim, evidenced by the
Wonderful.
fact that there are no questions at the moment. Keep it
Wonderful.
up.
Thanks a lot, Parker. I'm going to go ahead and continue with this then. So, as I said, we looked at the interface. I explained what we can see here, but how do we go about booking now? Booking equipment in Rentman can essentially be done in two major ways. The first way is by using the browser version of Rentman, which we're looking at right now. And the second option would be to use the Rentman app. Now, you guys might be familiar with the Rentman app already. If you're not, you can actually do all of your warehouse management on your phone as well. That could be done on Apple or your Android device, depending on what you prefer. Um, if we're talking about the app, the upside of using the app on your phone is that you have a whole lot more flexibility, which means you can actually have multiple people running around the warehouse, scanning out equipment for the same job at the same time. So it gives you a whole lot more flexibility. The only thing that your guys need for this is Wi-Fi or data. So they need to be in some way connected to the internet with their phones, and then really they can just run around and scan out whatever they want with their phones. Yeah, that's the upside of the app. On the other hand, with the browser version, that gives you a little bit more stability. You can have 2 or 3 people, some working with the app and also someone working on their desktop PC to make sure that everything is really being booked out properly, because of course the screen that we have right here is a whole lot bigger than what we're seeing in the app. Now, generally speaking, when we're talking about booking out, there's always different ways of booking. And we're going to demo that today. And if I now want to pretty much access my project that I've set up previously, I just have to look for it. It looks like we have 2 projects happening at the same time. In our case, we're just going to take the one that we have down here. And you can already see the note that I've added before. So if your warehouse staff is looking at this and you've made sure to add a note, they can directly see, all right, I really want to make sure that I pack item ABC for this job. So again, it's a great way to communicate internally with the company and make sure that everyone in the warehouse is also aware of what needs to be done specifically or uniquely for this job. Now, quick more here. If you want to have some sort of physical representation of what you're going to book out and scan, you always do have the ability to click on this little button right here and directly create a packing list or pull sheet. Terminology changes here. So you directly have a physical representation of what needs to be booked out. If you like doing check marks, if you just like working with paper, it's definitely an option here as well. You don't have to go full digital. Now, if we want to go ahead and do all of this digitally, then the only thing I need to do is simply go to my project, Concert at the Valley, and click on the book button down here. Now, once I've clicked on the book button, what we're seeing right here is what you maybe have on paper right now, or if you're using Rentman, you're already used to this. What we're seeing here is essentially a digital packing list, a digital pull sheet. Just like you would have it on paper, you have it within Rentman as well. And now you can pretty much see right here what we have planned on the project, on our Concert at the Valley project, but what is currently still in the warehouse. So by building a project, we had assigned it to the project, but of course we have not booked it out in any way yet. It's currently still in the warehouse and we still have to prep our gear. Now let's talk a little bit about how do we actually book our gear out. Now there's 2 main ways of doing that in Rentman, and you can really choose how you want to book your gear out up here. Now, depending on the project, depending on your preference, depending on your company and your processes, there might be different ways. Let's talk about, use case 1. You have a prepping area. Usually when, you prep your gear to go out on the job, you put it into a certain area in the warehouse first, then your trucks come, you load the gear on them, and then they go out. So in this case, maybe you want to have some intermediary step. So you don't directly want to book from warehouse to the actual location, but you first want to book from warehouse to prepped, and then from prepped to location. And that is a possibility. And if you want to choose how you want to book, you simply go up here, you have this little status button, and you can see right now, if I simply were to book things out, I would be moving them from the left, from the warehouse, to the right, and I would basically tell Rentman, my profile spots right here, they've directly gone to the location. As I said, you maybe want to book them into the prepping area first. And in this case, you can just go up here, you can choose warehouse to prepped, and then instead of booking from warehouse to location directly, you first book from warehouse to prepped. And then after you've done this, maybe a day later, maybe 2 days later, who knows, you're then directly going to go ahead and choose the status prepped to location. And then you're choosing to book from prepped to location instead. right? So you have that one intermediary step. But again, if you have a small job, if you directly want to book out, that's possible too. Just choose warehouse to location right here. Yeah. So I'm going to choose that for us today. And again, what we're doing here is an exact representation of what you can do in the app as well. Grouping is a possibility, and just changing the status here as well on how you want to book. Now, right now, what we're looking at here is our gear. Now you can see that we have some major categories right here. We have grouped this into effect, conventional, and a few different categories. If you remember in Rentman, when you're building your project, you can set up these so-called equipment groups or equipment categories. So essentially, you're choosing how to categorize equipment on a project level. It's entirely up to you how you want to categorize. One quick thing that I want to bring up here, especially because we're taking a closer look at the warehouse module today, is that you can also change how equipment is grouped in the warehouse. And excuse me, if we're talking about warehouse management, if you have a big warehouse, you might also want to be able to group equipment by where it is located within the warehouse. And if you want to change that, you can just go over here and you can see the grouping options here and simply click on group equipment. And then you have a few options here. So either you can choose to not group it at all. You just have one long list of equipment that you can just scan out piece by piece. But one other thing, which I personally believe is super helpful, is location and warehouse. If I choose this option here, you can see that now, if you have entered that information into Rentman, so if you have assigned locations to your equipment, you can then directly see that, okay, this is my equipment that is located in the L3 warehouse location. I also have some equipment located in C1, FX1, L4, L1. And what this essentially helps you to do is that instead of having to go to one area of the warehouse over and over again to pick up pieces of gear, you simply sort it by warehouse location. And then when you are in a certain area of the warehouse, you can directly pick up a few things on your card instead of having to run back and forth, right? Again, requirement for this is, of course, that you have entered the warehouse locations for your equipment. And this is something that you simply can do by opening up an equipment item. And one of the options, one of the fields that you can enter there is called location and warehouse. And once you've entered them, Rentman is simply going to group them together like it is doing here. Yeah. Now, I'm going to go back to grouping by equipment group just because that's what I'm used to. So I'm going to choose that again, and we're looking at conventional, effect, and so on again. And if we're now talking about booking equipment, there's different ways of doing that. Now, first of all, of course, you can scan. Yeah, as I said, you can scan on the app by using the camera on the app. So that's one option. But let's focus a little bit more on what we're doing here. Now, if you have scanning system set up, you simply go up here, you click on activate scanner. And then if you have QR codes and serial numbers assigned to your gear, you simply need to connect a scanner to your computer, Bluetooth, USB, whatever you like, and you can directly start scanning out those items. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a scanner connected to my PC. As everyone, home office, COVID, I have limited resources here. So we just have to imagine that we're actually doing a little bit of scanning here. Now, of course, scanning is one option. Now, if you're new to Rentman, or if not in the position right now to purchase scanning hardware, or it's not simply something that you want to do right now, you don't have to scan. There's more options of scanning equipment out. So as you're seeing, we're booking from warehouse to on location. So we're doing a direct book, no intermediary prepping step. And what we can do now is we can either take whatever item we want. Oops, I just made that a little bit smaller. So for example, the profile spot here, and just drag and drop that over. Yeah? So you're essentially saying that I've booked 10 out of my 10 ETC source 4 over by just dragging them. Apart from that, you can also just click on the book button right here. That's the even lazier version if you can't be bothered by using drag and drop. So I'm going to choose that option right here. And if that's something that you want, to let your crew do, or if it's, if you're a small company, you can also directly click on everything to location. What happens when you do that is that all of your equipment is booked from the warehouse to on location. Now, I understand that such a button might cause problems. Maybe you really want your crew members to scan every piece of gear, but don't worry. You can also disable this button right here and essentially force your crew to scan every individual item. That's something you can set up in the user roles of your crew. So you can allow some people to, book things over manually, but you can also force some of your crew members to always having to scan gear out. Yeah. Okay, so we've looked at the basic ways of booking equipment out. Now, what happens if, for example, one of your warehouse staff members realizes, we forgot something here. How do we add some additional equipment on that project that maybe the project planner or your sales manager forgot to add? Well, in this case, not a problem. Simply go over here with this little 3-dot button. And then once you click on that, you can also choose to add additional equipment. So if I click on that, a new window opens up, and now I can directly choose what I want to add to my project. And for example, let's say I need an additional mic for this job. So I would just go in here, type in SM58. It directly allows me to choose whatever I want to add. So I want to add another mic here. So let's choose that. And then I can choose from a different few more options here. And one of the most important things, of course, is when you're adding additional equipment in the warehouse at this stage, would you like to include that in the price calculation? So do you want to charge your client for additional equipment that you only realize you need while you're in the warehouse? If that's something you want to do, choose it right here, show in price calculation. Then this equipment will be added to the invoice that you can send out later. But again, you don't have to do this. Excuse me, I drank a little bit too much sparkling water there. You can also not select this, and then it won't be shown in the price calculation. So you're simply adding that equipment for free to the job. Yeah. So again, depending on company policy here, I guess depending on the client that you're working with, you can either choose to do this or not to do that. Okay. Now, let's book over some of our gear. I'm just going to be lazy and just click on the book button here. Just going to click on book, and so on. And you know what? I'm probably just going to say everything to location at some point. But one quick thing that I wanted to show you, and actually two major things, is let's say that some of your gear, while you're in the warehouse, you realize it's broken, right? Or you maybe don't have enough available of it. Things like that happen. It's warehouse life. Now, in this case, what you can simply do is just go over here, click on this little button, just like up here next to your equipment, this more actions button. And then instead of planning this item right here, you can also directly choose to plan an alternative. So for example, I have my SM58 here. I can click on plan alternative. And in this case, I could, for example, search for my alternatives, and I could say, all right, I mean, this is a handheld here, but I'm just going to go with an SM57 here, choose that as an item, and then I can directly choose to add this SM57 microphone as an alternative to my SM58. Maybe one of my SM58s is broken. Maybe one got lost. Maybe all of them were booked out and there was a little bit of miscommunication with your crew because somebody just took it. In this case, you could now just go ahead and replace an SM58 with an SM57. Again, you can connect alternatives to all of your gear and then simply replace them in the warehouse. Again, we want to give you maximum flexibility here. Yeah. Again, we're just talking about a theoretical use case here. I'm actually fine. I do have my handhelds in place, so I'm just going to go ahead and close this. Okay. Now, one more thing. I briefly mentioned that, equipment might be broken or maybe there is an issue with equipment. Now, if you only realize that in the warehouse, you maybe want to leave a note on that right away because you don't want to forget about, defect equipment, or maybe there's like a little bit something chipped off. And in this case, what you can also do is you can directly add notes to equipment. So for example, right here, one of my lighting consoles, something is maybe a little bit off about it. And then I can just go in here, say add note, and say lighting console has problem ABC. Yeah, I'm using ABC a lot today, but essentially what I'm just trying to say is that if there is anything on an equipment level that you think is important for your staff to know when the equipment is going out or when it's coming back in, you can directly connect that information in here. Yeah, so I'm just going to add a note and save that. And this is now a project level note. So that means that on this project, this lighting console is going to have this note. Yeah. Okay. Before I go and book everything over, one brief thing. Let's talk about the use case that you have someone new joining the company. Yeah, they're kind of used to the industry, they're used to equipment, but maybe they have a few things in terms of equipment that they're not completely familiar with yet. Maybe they need some visual representation of equipment. Now, if you have connected images to your equipment when setting up your equipment in the equipment tab, your crew can also directly access these images. So if they now want to see, all right, this follow stop right here, which one was that exactly again? They directly want to be able to identify it. In this case, they can also click on that infamous little button right here and directly show an image of whatever they are supposed to load. Yeah, so I click on show image, and then I can directly see that follow spot that they're supposed to load. Yeah. So again, doesn't happen too often, but again, you do have new people joining the company. You do have people forgetting what equipment looks like. And if they're supposed, if you want to give them the ability to access that information, connect images to your equipment. It doesn't take a whole lot of work, but it will help people in the warehouse to directly identify what they're looking for, and will speed up the overall warehousing process. Yeah, so I can, for example, also take a look at my beautiful hazer here if I wanted that. So you do have a lot of flexibility in working here. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and book everything else out. I think I've covered pretty much everything. But before I book everything over, Lauren, Parker, one of you, do we have any questions about what I'm saying here?
I think we're all set, Tim.
Beautiful. Okay, looks like I'm doing my job well for once.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and book everything over. Again, I can click on the button. I can drag them over. I can scan, but for today, I'm pretty lazy. So I'm just going to click on everything to location and essentially move all of my equipment from the warehouse to the location. Yeah, it's asking me if I want to do that. I am rather sure. And then, of course, I also have to change my project status accordingly. Now that my equipment has been booked from the warehouse to the location, the project now, of course, should represent that status, and therefore it says on location, and I'm just going to go ahead and save that and thereby confirm it. Yeah, and that was the last step. Simply click on done to confirm that I've booked everything over. Okay, now we can now see that our project has moved. Now, while it was in the 2-pack status before, it is now on location. As I said, if you had booked your equipment from 2-pack to prepped, it would now be showing up in this status right here, right? So I can even drag that over if I want to. I'm not going to do that right now. But essentially, it would be showing up right here in prepped, and then instead of booking, instead of it being on location, you could now go into the project again here. Let me demo that for you, and you can directly click on book again to then book it from prepped to location. Yeah, very easy way of doing that. Now, talking a little bit more, it is now on location. Once we're at the end of the planning period, of course, it will be expected back. So it will be showing up in this view right here. You can easily switch back and forth between those. And just like the name says, if equipment of a project does not come back in time, it will be shown in delayed status right here. Yeah, so that's what we have this one for. Okay, now let's talk about booking equipment back. First use case that I want to discuss is let's think about better times when you had a lot of projects coming back to your warehouse at the same time. At some days, you would have 3, 4 big truckloads of gear coming back, or maybe just a whole lot of projects. And in this case, you might not want to return all of your equipment individually on a project level. You don't want to go down here and click on every project. You have gear everywhere. You just want to be able to scan those items and book them back that way. We do have a feature for that. Simply go up here, click on scan return, and then this is more of a global return setting. So it doesn't matter what project the equipment is planned on. You can just really go about scanning here, and then it will automatically know that, okay, which item on which project was booked back. So again, a perfect feature to help you book back loads of gear coming back from loads of projects at the same time. Yeah. In my case, we all know what status the industry is in these days, unfortunately. So I'm just going to close this, and we're going to book back on a project level. Now, to do that, I simply go down here, I search for my project, which is Concert at the Valley, and I can directly see some more information about it, my notes. I can add more notes if I want to. Again, I can also maybe print a pull sheet if I want to have one to book back. But again, what we're going to do here now, either in the app or here, is click on Book again and open that project back up. Now, what we're doing here now is that instead of booking gear out, we're booking gear back. So it's pretty much the opposite way, really. So we're booking from on location to brought back. So by moving things from left to right, I'm saying, all right, I've brought back item A, B, C, and so on. Now, booking gear back is pretty much the exact same process as booking it out. You have your scanning option right here. Connect your scanner, book things back. You can do it individually by just dragging these over. And you can also easily just click on the book button right here. So again, you have a multitude of ways of working here. And of course, the app I know I keep on saying that, but it is super essential. You could have someone working on their PC and then 3 or 4 guys running around the warehouse, scanning these items back in and putting them back on the shelves. Now, quick thing that I want to cover here is, let's say you're booking gear back, and so far you've only booked back 5 of your 10 ETC source for profile. So some of them are still out, but you've currently only booked back 5 of them. And in this case, what you can do is you can essentially choose how many of them have already been booked back. So what you could go in here is, you can go in here where you see 10. That's because we have 10 of them in total, and simply say how many of them you would like to book back. And then simply click on enter the number, hit enter, and now I've booked back 5 of them, while 5 of them are still considered to be on location. Yeah. Use case here again, you've maybe only scanned 5 of them back so far. Other use cases that maybe, out of these down here, out of the 10, only 9 came back. So in this case, you would simply enter the number right here, 9, and directly book them over that way. Yeah? So there's a variety of ways you can use this. And of course, there's different use cases to using this as well. Now, apart from being able to just book these things back, there's more things we can do here now. Now, we all know that equipment goes out and it comes back, or it doesn't come back, or it comes back, but it doesn't work. And in this case, you might want to be able to actually mark things as broken, or that they're simply not there anymore, they're lost. Now, in this case, what you could simply do is select the item where you want to say something is not working. Let's go with our follow spot that we already worked with before, and simply go on this little button right here. And then we can either report it as defective, or we can mark it as lost. I think the difference here is clear. Let's take a closer look at report defective. So if we choose that option right here, we're essentially telling Rentman that, okay, this follow spot right here is probably broken. If we have serialized our equipment, we can directly choose which serial number is broken. In this case, I have not serialized my follow spots. I probably should be doing that. I can choose if my equipment is still be usable. Sometimes it's just cosmetic things, something chipped off, it doesn't look great, but you still want to be able to register that something is, that it needs to be repaired. But in this case, you could say it can still be used. It doesn't look great, but it can still be used. You can choose how many of them are broken. And then depending on company policy, you can also directly charge the cost to the customer. Right now we're choosing no here. We could choose yes right here. And then what will happen is that whatever you enter here as a name and the respective cost that you enter, this will be added as an additional cost to the project. Yeah. So the cost will be registered. So what that means for you, if you've already invoiced the client, or if you're about to invoice the client, this additional cost will directly be added to your upcoming invoice. Yeah. So you can record that. And again, if you want to charge your client, you can do that. If that's not something you do, you don't have to. Very easy. Yeah. And the lost functionality is super similar. Really just select the item, mark as lost. And then again, you can say how many of them were lost, which serial number is lost. And you can also directly choose to charge the cost to the customer. Yeah. Okay. That was a little bit about booking back. And again, before I run through this even faster, Parker, do we have any questions about booking back?
No, I don't think so. Nope.
Okay.
No questions.
Perfect. I'm just going to continue. If you guys see something coming up, just yell at me. I'm going to stop and cover it right away. Yeah. Okay. Now, let's start booking things back. Now, if I'm booking things back, again, I can do this manually by just dragging things over here. And one more thing that I briefly want to cover, as you might know, in Rentman, you're not just able to plan rentable items on a project, but also sales items. So we're talking about consumables here, tape, or for example, hazel liquid like we're seeing here. Now, if you realize that you've maybe used up one of those haze liquid containers, but not the other one, so you've used 5 liters, but that was pretty much it for the day, you could also now go in here and say, all right, well, one has been used up. It's a sales item, so it's not supposed to come back, but one of them is, coming back. We're going to use it on another job. So in this case, I'm just going to say, okay, one of them is actually coming back, so I'm going to book one of them over. And the rest of it is really going to stay out. So I'm going to book everything back now except for the sales items. But I think if I actually click on everything returned, it says only rental. All of my rental items will be booked back. So what you're seeing is that the haze liquid stays out. And the reason for this is obvious. It is a sales item, it is a consumable, and as the name says, it has been consumed. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to book it back, because if we were to book it back, we would essentially be telling Rentman all of our haze liquid that we had previously booked out is coming back as well. But if one of them has been used up, one of our 5-liter containers, well, in this case, we know that it now stays out on location. Yeah. So in this case, we're just going to be able to register it that way. Now, before I finalize this part of booking equipment back, I want to talk about 2 more use cases that we have here. First of all, equipment is delayed or equipment returns early. Now let's talk about early returns first. Now, an early return by definition is essentially that something from a project comes back before the planning period has ended. Yeah. So as a quick reminder, the planning period in Rentman was the earliest time from when your equipment becomes unavailable and the latest time when it becomes available again. Now let's say some of that equipment actually comes back earlier. How do we handle that? Well, at all times in Rentman, you could simply go into the warehouse, go into a project and say, all right, these 2 follow spots or 5 of each follow spots, they have come back early. Now, of course, that's going to have an effect on your equipment availability as well. And in this case, what simply happens is that the equipment that has come back earlier will directly be unreserved from the project it is on. Yeah. So to give you an idea, I'm just quickly going to close that project right here. I'm just going to click on done. And it's still down here because I haven't saved it as on location. But let's take this other project right here. And I'm just quickly going to go in here and click on book again. So this is a project that is still not packed. So I'm just going to go ahead and pack this. So I'm going to click on book. Quickly going to book everything from warehouse to location. Again, this is what we just did. I just want to show you guys a few more things here. It's now on location and save that. And then just click on done to confirm that. Now, this is the project that we set up. This is the project, weirdly enough, with the same name. My apologies if this is causing some confusion, that I now want to show you guys something in. Now, the end of the planning period here, let me quickly go out here again. The end of the planning period here is the 30th of September. Yeah. Today is the 28th of August. So what that means is that this equipment in it is not really expected back yet. But what happens if some of the equipment comes back for whatever reason? Well, it's not a problem because you could just go in here and book it. And let's, for example, say, that, our 20 headsets and our belt pack have already come back. So I can just take these items and book them back. And what happens is because we are booking back before the end of the planning period, the equipment is now unreserved from the project, right? If you confirm a project, the equipment that you have booked on it will be reserved. It is now specifically reserved for Concert at the Valley. Yeah? You cannot really book it out on another project. Rentman won't let you do that. When you're booking back equipment and you're returning things early, then it will essentially be unreserved from the project. Yeah. So because essentially it is back in the warehouse, so you can book it back on other projects. So the warehouse stock, the warehouse availability will be increased because you have equipment back, but the plant availability is still low. Yeah? So you have it available, but it is still in some way planned on that project right here. I hope that's making sense. Yeah? If you do have questions about what I just said, if I should maybe show you that in the equipment view, just let me know. I can directly demo that to you as well. Okay, so to finish up what we started, let's go back into our second concert at the Valley. We have a whole lot of concerts at the Valley's happening these days. And I'm just going to go in here and click on book again and jump into the project that we were just earlier working on. Now, let's talk about what happens when equipment doesn't come back in time. If equipment is delayed, yeah, you want to be able to register that in Rentman. And I quickly want to show you how that is done. And to do that, I'm just going to book back one of our follow spots and just say, let's just assume this was still on location. Now, if let's, for example, assume in this case that our follow spots, profile spots right here, excuse me, all 10 of them have not come back. Maybe they were forgotten, maybe something happened to them, we don't know. So how do we now mark them as delayed in Rentman in the warehouse? Very simple. We simply go up here on the little button right next to done, or actually, no, that's not it. Lauren, can you remind me where I mark things as delayed? Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry, I got it. So it's this little button right here. Too many buttons these days. So I'm just going to click on this little button right here, and then I can directly choose to mark some of the equipment that has not come back yet as delayed. So I just click on mark equipment groups as delayed. And now I can choose, okay, what equipment is delayed? And in this case, the only rental items that are delayed are in my conventional equipment group, which are my follow spots. So I'm going to choose that. Those are the ones that are delayed. And now, of course, I also have to pick a new time. When are they coming back? So I think the end of my planning period was the 31st of September. I think I had made it a September project, but let's just say they're probably not coming back. Maybe I've called with the company that I rented it to, and they're saying, we forgot them, whatever, we have them in our warehouse. You're not going to get them back on the 31st or on the 30th, but rather on the 2nd of October. So you're essentially changing the planning period here. Actually, why is it not updating this? Did I make it later? There we go. So we're just going to say this is coming back on the 4th of November. It's coming back really late. Now, what we're essentially telling Rentman here is to extend the planning period of this item, right? Everything else has come back, but our profile spots right here. So here, by adjusting this time right here, we're telling Rentman, okay, the planning period before was that it was supposed to come back in the end of September, but now that it is delayed, it will come back at a later time, and we're doing that right here. One thing that I briefly want to point out here, if you mark equipment as delayed, only the availability of the equipment will be adjusted, right? So your 10 profile spots, Jesus Christ, won't be available until the date that you're registering right here, but it will not affect the price that you're charging the client. So if the fact that your client has not brought back the item in time is affecting the cost, you will have to go into the project manually and then say, all right, we have an additional charge of $500, 500 euros, $1,000 because some of the equipment is delayed. Yeah, so that's something you will have to do manually. Rentman does not increase the cost automatically by you marking things as delayed. Yeah? But in this case, I could just now mark it as delayed, add a remark if I like to, and then it will directly register that and say, all right, this equipment has not come back in time. Okay. I think I pretty much covered everything from early returns to delayed returns here. If something about those two parts is still unclear, use the Q&A option or raise your hand and let us know how we can help you here. Just going to give this half a minute or so, and Lauren Parker, let me know if something pops up, yeah?
All silent on the Western Front here, Tim. Feel free to proceed.
Beautiful. Thank you, Parker. Now, let's finalize what we started. Let's just say in our case, everything has worked, nothing is broken, nothing is lost, everything has come back in time. And I'm just going to go ahead and book that profile spot over. My haze liquid, as I said, is a sales item, so one of them stays out. And now what I simply have to do is click up here next to the done button and then choose change status and close. Everything has been booked back. What that means from here, it is now returned. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And there we go, everything has been booked back. Don't get confused, this is the second concert at the Valley that I had accidentally set up earlier. Yeah. So that was warehouse booking. We covered the workflows here, how to book from to pack to prep to on location. We also covered how you can mark things as defective and lost. And of course, again, how to do this with the app. Unfortunately, we can't demo the app today. I do believe that's a good idea to do at some point. So I'm going to forward that idea and maybe also show you guys how you can actually do the whole process in the app as well. Very similar, but if you want to demo it, just download the Rentman app on your phone. You can find it in the Apple Store and Play Store, and then you can just try these things out as well. Okay, Now, because we're talking about warehousing, I also want to take the time today, with a little bit more time, to take two rather new features that we have with Rentman. One of them came out a few months ago actually, I think in April, and one of them is rather new. It's something that we just introduced, I think a week ago. The first thing that I want to look at is our stock counting feature. Stock counting is one word for it. Inventory audit. Inventory is another way for it. Essentially, it's just you checking your inventory, going through your inventory, checking what you think you have and what you actually have. So you're taking an inventory of your warehouse. Now, this is something that we don't do in the warehouse module. Yeah, the warehouse module is more for moving things out and moving things back in. It's more for the actual workflow there. If we want to take our inventory, what we do is we head over to our equipment module here, our database of inventory. Yeah. And what we're seeing here now is, of course, our equipment and the way that we have set it up. And let's, for example, say I have some downtime right now. I assume we all have, unfortunately, forced downtime. And let's just say I want to check, okay, what do I actually have in stock? And what do I think I have in stock? And the way you do this is pretty straightforward, really. Let's, for example, say we want to do an inventory check for all of our audio equipment. So in this case, I'm going to select my audio category right here. It now marks all of my subfolders as well. And of course, you could also just mark all of your equipment as well if you want to do an inventory check for all of your equipment. But we're going to start with audio today. So I select all of my audio gear right here. Then I can select specific equipment or just all of it. I want to check all of my audio equipment. So I'm going to choose that. And now what I can easily do is just go over here, click on a little 3-button dot, and then I can directly click on count inventory. Yeah. So again, the inventory check feature is supposed to help you count your inventory and how much you have at a time. So we're going to do that. We're going to click on count inventory. And now I get my first window here with general information. So first of all, I can give that inventory count a name. Rentman is going to list and record all of these inventory counts. So you can go back in time and check, okay, what did I have on the 28th of August? What did I have on the 29th of September? Depending on how often you do these inventory counts, you can always go back and check what you had at which point in time. Yeah. So if we're recording this inventory count here, I can also add a remark. I can also attach tasks and notes to this if I would like to. And you have a rather extensive text here that tells you how does this equipment or this inventory stock feature actually work. Yeah, so if you have some time, if you have never used this, don't worry, you can just go in here and you can directly read up on it and get a better idea how this works. Now let's go to the actual equipment counting part of this inventory feature. Now, let's talk a little bit about screen here. Now, up here, first of all, you have the ability to scan your equipment. And then down here, you see all of your equipment that is part of the audio category. Now, there's two ways of doing your inventory. First use case is you have added barcodes or QR codes to all of your equipment. So what you can essentially start doing here now is you can just run around the warehouse and with your laptop, because unfortunately this feature is not available on the app yet. We're working on that. And you can essentially run around the warehouse and scan all of your equipment. And by scanning it, Rentman will realize, okay, out of equipment A, I have this many, out of equipment B, I have this many. And if we talk a little bit more about how Rentman registers this right here, if let's for example take, I think we have one of our DJM 900 in here, there we go. So if I now select an item down here, our DJM 900, let's look at the details of this item. Now, in total, I have a quantity of 4 items. Yeah, I have 4 of my DJM 900. Rentman now also tells me how much I have in repair. So what this does essentially is if I have 4 in total and one of them is in repair, that essentially only leaves 3 of them to be counted, right? We know that one is in repair, so of course we can't count it because it's maybe somewhere else in the company. Then we have in cases. If an item within Rentman is planned or added to a case, it is taken out of the quantity. So what that means is the item is not an individual item anymore. It is now part of the overall case, right? So for example, our DJ mixer right here, if you add that into a DJ case, then the individual mixer will not be available for booking anymore. It will always be rented out in that case form. Okay? So what that does is it removes it from the general availability. Yeah. I hope that's making sense. If not, again, you have the Q&A for that to just ask us a question. I'll cover it. Then we also have from warehouse. Now the terminology here is still a little bit strange. I think we're going to adjust that. I think I talked to Lauren about this. But essentially what from warehouse means is that how much of these DJM 900s are currently planned on projects. Yeah. So what that pretty much means is that, of course, if it's planned on a project and it's currently out, I will not be able to count that. And that's what is happening here as well. So if we now go into this and count it, we have 4 of our 900s in total. 1 is in repair. That leaves us with 3 that we can count. 0 are in cases, still 3. And 1 is currently out on a job. It's currently has been booked out in the warehouse. So that leaves us with 2 that we can currently account for. 2 that we can currently basically count. And now if I want to count them, again, if I have, if I have barcoded or QR coded my DJM 900s, I could now just go and scan the 2 that I have. Again, I unfortunately can't do that because I don't have a scanner with me, but if you don't have a scanner, that's possible too. So now I have my DJM 900 down here, and I can choose how many of them I've counted. So I could go in here and say, all right, I've counted, and 2 of them are actually here. That's how many I need. So I just go in here and say, all right, oops, is it letting me do that? No, it is not. Okay. Parker, Lauren, I need your help. Why do you think I cannot mark how many of them I've counted here? Am I doing something wrong?
Well, I'm just checking it now, but these don't have serial numbers, am I correct?
No, I don't think these are serialized items, no.
No? Let me check. Oh.
Okay.
That one did.
Yeah, looks like we do actually have these serialized. I think that was the issue here.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. So let's use the SM58 as an example instead. My apologies if that causes a little bit of confusion here. So with our SM58s, we have a total quantity of 30, 0 are in repair, 0 are in cases, but 5 are currently booked out on project. What that leaves us is 25 that we can actually count. And in this case, again, I could either scan it, or I could simply go in here and say, all right, out of these 25 that I think I have, 25 I actually have. So I enter the number of items I've counted, and then Rentman will tell me, okay, the assumption that I make that I have 25 of them is correct. I've counted 25, therefore my stock levels are correct. Again, 5 are out, 5 plus 25 is 30. That's how many I think I have in total. Yeah. Let's, for example, assume that we think we have a certain number of items, for example, for this DJ booth right here, but we actually count fewer items. Now, in this case, for my DJ booth, I'm supposed to have a total quantity of 2. None of them are in repair, none of them are in cases, and none of them are currently booked out. So I'm supposed to have 2 of these DJ booths. But let's say I run around and I only find 1. So what do? Well, you should record this. So what you do is you simply go in here and say, I only have 1 of them. And what Rentman then tells me is that I have a shortage. So it directly tells me that, hey, there is a problem. You have fewer DJ booths than you thought you have. And again, you can do this by entering it manually, but if you have QR coded everything, you can just run around the warehouse, scan all of them, and then Rentman will directly tell you how many you're short or if your inventory stock is correct. Yeah. Okay. I think that was pretty much it. Now, what happens if you've completed all of the inventory count? Well, it's important that we here differentiate between the bulk items and the serial numbers, and that's the mistake I just made. Because with serial numbers, you cannot adjust the quantity manually. You actually have to scan them to say, okay, this is how many I have, and this is how many I think I have. So serial numbers in the inventory count have to be scanned, while for bulk items, you can also record how many you've counted manually. Now, if I've completed my inventory count, yeah, and maybe there's a few differences. Maybe for some of them I'm missing some gear. Now, how do I actually apply that to my stock? Well, the only thing that you have to do is you have to click on complete count. And then depending on how your stock levels have changed based on the inventory count, Rentman will directly update that information in your actual inventory over here. So say you now only have one DJ booth instead of two. Well, if you click on complete count and save it, then Rentman will reduce your stock levels from 2 to 1, because of course you only have one right now. Yeah. Now, if we're talking about doing this with serial numbers, if you, for example, for your DJM 900s, let's say you think you have 4 of them, but you've only scanned 3 of them. That means you're missing one of your DJM 900s, right? So what you essentially need to do then, Rentman does not auto-adjust the quantity of serial numbers automatically. So if you're lacking one of your serialized items, and you click on complete count, Rentman will not update the quantity automatically. You will actually have to go in, look for your DJM 900 in the equipment section and say, all right, one of those serial numbers I did not scan, it's probably missing, I don't have it. Yeah. So to summarize this, for your bulk items, so for items that are not serialized, Rentman will update the quantity automatically when you complete an inventory count. For your serial items, it will of course record that you don't have as many as you think you have, but it will not update the inventory automatically. You will have to do this manually. Yeah. I hope that's making sense to everyone. By the way, let's say you have a busy day, you start an inventory count and you can't finish it, don't worry. For example, in this case, I have not completed my inventory count, as you can see, not counted yet. I could easily click on save and then reopen it later and continue it, right? So it's not something that you have to finish when you start it. You can start it, you save it, you get back to it later. And when you're done, you click on complete count, just like I just did. I'm gonna finish that and then just go on save and change it that way. Yeah. Okay. So last step for today, and I think I'm going a little bit over time, and I got to apologize for that. It's just lots of new features that we have here. Is talking about our new stock counting feature that we have in Rentman. So if you remember, when you used to go into an item earlier, let's, for example, take one of our items right here, our DJ mixer, you could change the quantity for the item, but you could, for example, not really record in any way how many of them you purchase at what point in time. And with our new feature, that is a possibility now. And I'm just going to demo this to you by, for example, choosing my SM58 here. So I'm going to open up this item. Just going to go into it. And I think this is one of our bulk items. Yeah, bulk items, again, in comparison to serialized items, they're not serialized. You just know you have 30 of them. And you can see here that the actual number, the quantity of items that I have is not visible in this view anymore. We now have a dedicated tab here, which is called stock. And this is where Rentman will actually tell you how many of these you have. And in this case, we're seeing that our starting stock for our SM58s is 30, right? So we have 30 of them. Now, there's a couple of things I can do here now. So first of all, if I did an inventory count and I recorded that I only have 25 of them and not 30, it would have reduced it from 30 to 25 automatically. Yeah, that's one thing. Now, of course, maybe we're purchasing more of our SM58s. What do I do then? Well, it's very simple. I just go over here, click on enter delivery, and I can directly say, all right, how many of them did I purchase? Let's say I purchased 10 more of them. And then the nice thing is here now is that if you're looking to purchase some of them into the future, so if you've made a plan to purchase 10, 15, 20 of them in the future, you can now also directly record when you're planning to purchase them and when they should become available in your equipment. Yeah, so this wasn't a possibility before. So you simply go in here and say now, okay, I've just purchased 10 of these items and they're probably going to be in the shop. Let's assume we're not ordering for them from Amazon and delivery time is going to take a little bit longer. We're going to have them by the 14th of September. So I just choose this option. It will be delivery. I can add some more details about this. And what Rentman will do now is on the 14th of September at 12 a.m., it will increase your stock levels by 10. Yeah? So it's an easy way to account for these deliveries coming in. Yeah? So I could, for example, confirm this. And as I said, on the 14th of September, so in 2 weeks from now, approximately, our delivery of 10 will come in and we'll have 40 instead of 30. Yeah. Now, one more thing you can do here as well. Let's, for example, say you want to correct your stock. Something went wrong, you lost some items. Maybe you didn't mark them as lost initially, but you just want to correct your stock. Now for bulk items, that's very easy as well. So you can easily just go in here and say, all right, I would like to correct my stock now because maybe I don't have 5 of them anymore. So you could just go in here and click on correct stock and say, okay, my new stock is not 30. Again, we're talking about the current stock right now, but maybe it's 25. Yeah. So you can, for example, go in here and say, all right, some of these items, items too old, right? So some of these SM58s were too old. You were like, I don't really want them anymore. So you just were like, items too old. You put them away. You're not really going to use them anymore. And so you could also just go in here and say, all right, the new stock is 25, and then just confirm it. And now items, so our stock was reduced by -5 because the items are too old, and this is happening from today, from 10:26 a.m. my time, which is what the time is right here. Yeah. Okay, so this was how we adjust stock levels for bulk items. Again, bulk items is where you have not serialized the gear, right? We don't have any serial numbers in this. Now, if we're talking about doing this for serialized items, let's go back to our old friend DJM 900 that we were working with earlier. Let me check where we have it. There we go. Just going to open this item up. And I'm pretty sure that we've serialized this item. So if I go into serial numbers here, you can see that these are all the different variations of my DJM 900 that I have. Now, how do I work in terms of, how do I work with stock changes here? It's pretty straightforward. Really, if you're looking to purchase new serialized items, new of the, like 2 more of these DJM 900s in the future, what you can simply do is you go in here, you add more serial numbers, and you can say, okay, my internal reference is 005. You give that a serial number, whatever that is going to be, and then right here you can enter your date of purchase. And based on the date of purchase, if we now again in here say, okay, 30th of September, on that date, this additional item, this additional serial number that you have purchased will become available. Yeah. Because of course with serialized items, we have to be a little bit more specific. So on item by item level, we choose, okay, how much did I pay for this? You know, what's the depreciation? But the most important thing is here to account for stock changes in the future on a serial number level. Make sure you enter the date of purchase here. And from this date of purchase, that's when they will become available for booking and will be taken into consideration when booking. Yeah. If you would like to reduce your stock on a serial number level, that's possible too. You currently cannot say that in 2 weeks, I don't want this item to be available anymore. But if you would like to reduce your stock and say, all right, the first of my DJM 900s here, it's not working anymore, we're going to get rid of it, then you would just go in here and edit it and essentially say it's not active anymore. And this will reduce your stock levels accordingly, right? Instead of having 4, right? We have 4 right now. This is a future purchase. It will reduce to a quantity of 3 that we currently have available by setting it from active yes to active no. Yeah. Or for example, if you sell items, right? Another good use case for that, you get rid of them, you sell them, whatever you do with them, that's when these stock adjustments would be really helpful. Okay. I think on the stock counting level, I pretty much covered everything. Lauren, Parker, did I forget everything here? Forget anything, but everything.
I think you did a great job, Tim.
Awesome. Lauren, anything that I missed from your end?
Nope, you did good.
Wonderful. Okay. Now, I think in terms of the warehousing webinar for today, I have covered everything that is new, everything that we had, and everything that we wanted to show you in the new warehouse and the new interface in our warehouse webinar. It's time for questions. We're going to open this up. So if you do have any questions for us about stock counting, about stock counting, about the new stock feature, and about the warehouse, again, we're going to open this up. Ask your questions in the Q&A section, and we're directly going to answer them. Okay. Looks like there's no questions yet. Is that correct, Parker?
That is correct. And if you guys prefer to ask your questions in an email, you can always send an email to support@rentman.io.
Exactly. Just send them over to support@rentman.io. You can always give us a call. You can find our phone number on rentman.io. And of course, within your Rentman account, at any times, if you do have any questions, use the help feature down here. And then either our bot is going to help us or an actual person is going to help you out with some answers to your questions. Yeah. Right. Perfect. Now, again, thank you so much for joining today. If you do have additional questions, let us know by sending us an email, calling us, getting in touch via the chat. And I hope you learned something new today. And I hope all of you have a great day, a great evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks a lot, Tim.
Thanks a lot, Parker. Thanks, Lauren. Bye-bye.